You looked in the mirror this morning, and it happened again. Flat. Thin. Deflated. Everything technically in place, and it still looked wrong. That feeling has a name. And it's not your hair's fault. You've probably been doing everything you were told. The volumizing shampoo, the blow dry, the dry shampoo spritz. And still by noon it's gone. All of it. You look at photos from 10 years ago, and the difference isn't age. It's one or two styling choices that are quietly pulling everything down. Here's what nobody says plainly. Thin hair after 50 doesn't need more product. It needs a completely different approach. And the women who figured that out? They look 10 years younger. Not because of a miracle, but because of 4 specific shifts that take less than 5 minutes each. I researched the worst style and beauty mistakes and youth-boosting fixes for mature women, so you get simple, proven transformations that work immediately. Today we're covering exactly that, and by part 2, you're going to want to stop and look in the mirror. I mean it. In part 1, we're starting with the single biggest thing that's collapsing your volume before you even finish styling. Part 2 covers the technique most women get completely backwards, and it's the one a professional colorist told me is the hardest habit to break. Part 3 has a fix so simple it almost feels unfair that nobody says it plainly. And part 4 closes with the one finishing step that separates thin hair that reads polished from thin hair that reads tired. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I cover this every week. Part 1. The weight problem nobody names. There is one thing you are almost certainly doing to your thin hair right now. And it is working directly against every other effort you make. You don't know it's happening. That's what makes it so costly. Most women with fine or thinning hair after 50 reach for more. More product. More layers of spray. More conditioner from roots to ends. More of everything, because more feels like protection. It feels like you're doing something. But here's the real reason this keeps failing you. And it's something I wish someone had said out loud years ago. Weight is the enemy of fine hair. Full stop. Every heavy conditioner sitting on your midshaft, every dense cream you smooth from root to tip, every rich serum you apply before blow drying. It is pressing your hair flat before you even pick up the dryer. You are literally weighting it down. This specific mistake is pulling your hair parallel to your scalp within 20 minutes of styling. And flat hair at the crown adds at least 4 years to how your face reads in any light. It draws the eye downward. It compresses your features. And no amount of backcombing rescues it once the product has set. Write this one down. The fix is not a different product. It is a different placement. Conditioner goes midshaft to ends only, never the roots. Mousse or volumizing foam goes at the roots only, not dragged through the length. You are treating 2 separate zones of your hair, as if they have completely different needs. Because they do. If you're still smoothing conditioner from root to tip out of habit, swap it for ends-only application. And watch what your hair does in the first 20 minutes of your day. The lift you've been chasing was never about adding more. It was about removing the weight from exactly the wrong place. One more thing before we move on. In the next part, I'm covering the blow-dry technique that most women do completely backwards. And a colorist I spoke to described it as the single most common error she sees on women with fine hair. You'll want to stay for that one. Part 2. The blow-dry direction that changes everything. Most women over 50 with fine hair are blow-drying in the direction their hair naturally falls. Down. Smooth. Following the path of least resistance. It feels right. It looks tidy. And it is one of the most quietly damaging habits you can have for thin hair. Because it is training every strand to lie flat against exactly the surface you need it to lift away from. A colorist I've spoken to said it plainly. I can tell within 10 seconds of watching someone dry their hair whether their volume will last past 11 in the morning. That is not dramatic. That is physics. Here is what changes everything. And it is so simple it almost feels too small to matter. You flip sections of hair upward or forward, away from the scalp, and you dry them against the direction of natural fall. Not violently. Not with tension. You lift a section, point it toward the ceiling, and direct warm air underneath it from root to midshaft. You are creating memory in the hair fiber. You are teaching each strand that lift is its natural state. This is the one a friend of mine heard from her stylist, and went home and tried that night, and called me about the next morning. Her exact words. Why has nobody ever said this to me before? The technique has 3 steps. First, apply your volumizing mousse to damp roots only. We covered that in part 1. And rough dry with your head tipped forward so gravity is working with you, not against you. This initial inversion rough dry builds the foundation of your volume before you reach for a brush. Second, take small sections at the crown and sides and dry each one lifted away from the scalp using your fingers, or a round brush held underneath the section, with airflow directed upward. Third, and this is the one most women skip, finish each section with a brief blast of cool air, while still held in the lifted position. Cool air sets the shape into the hair. Without it, the volume falls within the hour. If you are still rough drying straight down before brushing, swap that for a full forward flip rough dry first, and then section by section lifting with cool shot finishing. This one shift extends your volume by 3 to 4 hours minimum. Not a product. Not a purchase. A direction. What's coming in part 3 surprised even me when I first heard it. It's the one step that takes under 30 seconds and most women skip entirely, because nobody ever explained why it matters. That's next. Part 3. The finishing step that most women skip. You have done the mousse correctly. You have dried with lift. And then you reach for the finishing spray. And you hold it 6 inches from your hair, spray it straight onto the surface, and press your hand down to smooth. 30 years of muscle memory. Feels like polish. Feels like the final touch. And it is undoing everything you just spent 10 minutes building. Here is the truth about finishing spray and fine hair. And it is the kind of thing nobody says plainly because it seems too obvious once you hear it. Aerosol spray applied close to the scalp carries weight and moisture directly onto the root zone. It doesn't hold your volume. It collapses it. The very thing you are using to set your style is the reason your style disappears. This one detail is quietly compressing your crown and pulling your features downward in every single photo taken after midday. Your cheekbones, your jawline, the lift around your eyes. All of it reads heavier because your hair has lost its structure at exactly the point where structure matters most. Yes, that's simple. The fix takes 23 seconds. Hold your finishing spray at arm's length, a full 18 to 24 inches from your head. Mist into the air above your hair, and let it fall down onto the surface rather than hitting it directly. The fine particles settle without weight. Your volume holds. For extra security on days when longevity matters, lift a section at the crown with your fingers before misting. Hold the lift, spray above, release. The hair sets in the lifted position. I watched a woman in a salon chair, stunning cheekbones, perfect posture, genuinely beautiful woman, spend 20 minutes building gorgeous volume. Then she picked up her can of hairspray and held it 4 inches from her crown and pressed her palm down to smooth. All of it. Gone. She looked in the mirror and said, "It always falls so fast." She didn't know. That's the hardest part. If you are still spraying close and smoothing by habit, swap it for the arm's length mist with a lifted crown. And notice what your reflection looks like at 3 in the afternoon rather than 10 in the morning. There is one thing about the final step in part 4 that nobody in this space talks about. And it is the one that ties everything together. That is next. Part 4. The one finishing move that holds it all together. You've done everything right. The product placement, the blow-dry direction, the misting distance. And there is still one final step that separates thin hair that reads polished and deliberate from thin hair that reads effortful and trying. Most women never get told what it is. Not because it's a secret, but because it's so understated that it barely looks like a technique at all. It's where you part your hair. A center part on fine hair does one thing with devastating consistency. It divides your hair into 2 equal, flat panels that hang on either side of your face and expose the maximum amount of scalp at the crown. Every photo, every light, every angle. It is the most honest showcase of thinning hair there is, because it pulls the eye directly to the scalp line and away from the volume you spent all morning building. Have you ever looked at a photo of yourself and thought your hair looked thinner than it did in the mirror? A center part is almost always why. Because mirrors flatter from the front. Cameras catch the crown from above. Here is what changes this immediately. And it will feel slightly wrong the first time you do it, because your hands have a part memory that runs deep. Move your part to one side. Not dramatically. 1 inch past center toward whichever side feels natural. That single shift does 3 things at once. It covers more scalp, it creates directional movement through the crown, and it stacks volume naturally on the heavier side rather than splitting it evenly thin across 2. This is the one I didn't expect people to message me about most. But they always do. For fine hair specifically, a deep side part, sitting 2 to 3 inches from the natural hairline, works even harder. It creates a sweeping panel of hair that covers the entire crown zone and reads as deliberate, structured, and full. Pair it with the lifted blow-dry technique from part 2 and the arm's-length spray finish from part 3, and your hair is doing something completely different than it was this morning. If you are still centering your part from 20 years of habit, swap it for a deep side part starting 2 inches off-center. And take a photo. Not in the mirror. A photo. Because cameras catch what mirrors hide, and what you will see is hair that reads fuller, a face that reads lifted, and a woman who looks like she knows exactly what she is doing. You have your bone structure. You have your natural elegance. And now you have 4 steps that let all of it show. You just learned the 4 specific things that have been quietly working against your thin hair. And you did it in one sitting, without a single product purchase and without a salon appointment. Wear this knowledge with the confidence it was always meant to carry. Tell me in the comments, which of these 4 steps were you getting wrong without knowing it? I want to hear, because I guarantee at least one of them is going to make you say, that's it. That's exactly what I've been doing. Next time, we're getting into the one makeup mistake that adds years to the face before you've even finished getting dressed, and it's not the one you'd expect. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.